that discussion some more as we go on. So I just want to make sure people know, if you haven't seen that information, I'm sure staff can get that for you also. Okay.
I will say one thing, not necessarily a question, but a quick statement in regards to saying thank you to the staff for putting together this review of all this information and the questions that were asked, and then also extend appreciation to the folks that have gone through the budget with the proverbial fine-tooth comb to discover some of the things that we've highlighted, and now the team has actually adjusted. And I mean, that's how I think a public process should work in regards to, you've got three things right out of the gate that were highlighted, and now they've been we've taken those in, adjusted things so that they are easier to understand. And that's the many times there's an expectation from from the folks that look in from the externally that we instantly have all of their insight and know exactly how we need to produce things so that they have a better understanding. And that's not always the case. I mean, there are a lot of smart people that work on a lot of things, but getting everybody's perspective is what's going to help us get data and information that allows for clarity and understanding. And so I just want to applaud everybody who is working on this. And I know Jared has spent some time reviewing this considerably and giving us some input, and other folks have done the same. So I just wanted to extend that appreciation for all the work that's being done, and on the TriMet team for being responsive and open to looking at these things, and for everybody bringing us their concerns.
Good. Okay, well then before we move on to the business item, I just want to point out, I see that under public testimony, there's a number of folks that want to testify in the budget and provide us information under the public forum. That's fine. I just want to make it clear, if you want your testimony to be part of the formal record or actual budget hearing, will be appearing on May 22nd, our next business meeting. And that's where we again will expect to have a number of people testify and a lot of deliberations on the budget. So I'm not trying to deter you from testifying today. I just want you to know that if you want to be part of the formal record, you should be part of the May 22nd meeting as well. Okay, yes, Mr. General Manager.
Mr. Board President, I also just do want to very quickly highlight that we are in the midst of a very broad outreach program, and there are a number of opportunities to meet with TriMet staff and with me that are available. We've done things as innovatively as group phone calls, big conference calls. We did that last Friday. We've got another one scheduled during the budget process. As I mentioned, Board Member Stovall and Dave and I met with Opal yesterday. We're also meeting with a number of other groups and stakeholders. Later this week, I'll meet with a group of writers, actually 2 meetings with groups of writers, because there were so many interested in coming at OHSU, one of our major participants in our past programs and one of our major destinations on the system. So what we're beginning to do is really sort of learn from the process last year that really the most effective communication we have is to go to people. While we certainly have the meetings that we sponsor where people can come to us, really the more effective conversation and communications are when we reach out and actually meet with people where we find them. And so we're doing an awful lot of that. I just wanted to sort of note the themes of the public comments that we've gotten to date overall, and this includes those that come online as well as the comments that we've been receiving in our various meetings. Very appreciative of the stability of this budget with no fare increases and no service reductions. Very grateful for the low-income fare mitigation program. There is an acknowledgement that we make at the start of these conversations, but everyone acknowledges as well, which is some of the connections on the system are getting harder to make as we have service reductions, particularly during midday and on weekends. And that more service, everywhere we go, more service is really the #1 requirement. Add a bus later at night, add a bus earlier in the morning, add more, fill in the frequent service, add a bus to industrial areas, to areas in East Portland that need frequent service. I'd also say that the investment in buses are very appreciated, and I think the new buses have been a hit with customers. For the most part, there's a little controversy about whether the cloth or vinyl seats are better, but we'll continue to monitor that. But generally, very great deal of appreciation for that investment program that this budget accelerates. Just to perhaps clarify a little bit, Warner, and what we've talked to Opal about yesterday about their campaign for a fair transfer is that we would produce new analysis based on new data as I mentioned. Now, unfortunately, that takes a little while to get all of that turned around in a format that's useful for this analysis, and we have committed to getting that completed by the end of June. And at that point in time, we provide it to Opal. We would schedule whatever work sessions and communication forums that would be helpful related to that. We bring it to you then in July, as well as whatever continued deliberation that you would have. So that's the process I see. I would note that it is disconnected from the budget process itself. We think that that's adequate and okay to do because frankly, you can change the transfer policy at any time, and it takes between 1 or 2 months for us to actually implement a change in the transfer policy. Thankfully for the new printers on the buses, otherwise that would be a very big challenge of trying to communicate that change to 1,400 operators, but now it's a simple programming change as of July 1. So that's the way I see us proceeding on that. Described that with Opal yesterday. Obviously, no commitment was made related to the decision or the outcome, and you'll have to have that deliberation when all of the information is in front of you.
All right. See no further questions. I think we're ready to move into our business agenda. All right. So let's move on to the consent agenda. And the items appearing on the consent agenda are routine and may be approved by the board in one blanket motion. I will point out that any board member who wants may remove an item from the consent agenda for discussion or questions, and if we want to, we'll do that and consider it separately as part of the resolution section of the agenda. So what do we have on a consent agenda? There's 2 items: the approval of the board meeting minutes of March 27th, 2013, and Resolution 13-04-25, adopting certain motor vehicle financial responsibility limits. So is there any member of the board who'd like to remove an item from the consent agenda? Seeing none, then do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Move to approve.
Your motion?
Second.
Your second. Any further discussion? Okay. All those in favor of the motion to approve the consent agenda as presented signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Seeing none, the motion is approved unanimously. Let's go on to the resolutions. The first resolution is Resolution 13-04-26, which is authorizing a contract with Wyatt's Tire Company for purchase, servicing, recapping, and disposal of fixed route bus tires. And I think if you remember right, this was pulled from the consent agenda a couple of meetings ago at Director Bethel's request, and I believe the staff has done some work, so maybe you can give us an update of where we are before we take action.
Yes, Mr. Board President, members of the board, I wanted to particularly thank Dr. Bethel for his question because I think it resulted in additional focus and good work on the part of the staff to actually bring this contract back to you at this point in time. You might remember that we had gone through a contest that allowed bidders to propose either lease tires or purchase tires. We've tried to simplify that in this presentation to say we're frankly, we don't care whether the lease or bid, we just want to see what the lowest price is. So the lowest price per various vendor was shown here, whether it's leased or purchased. Second was a concern about disadvantaged business opportunity. And again, much of the tire business is purchase of tires, but there are elements that are available for disadvantaged business, and that's where I think the additional work with the vendor has been very fruitful. And we've identified some very significant disadvantaged business opportunities that the Wyatt's Tire has agreed to include in its proposal to us. And those frankly go beyond just our contract. They also go to other contracts and other lines of their business, so they will begin to use disadvantaged business in many of their business. So I think there's a benefit that is even beyond this contract that will ensue from this. So with that, there are experts here who can certainly answer any of the particular questions, but we think we've got a very good price, and we think we've got a very responsive contractor who has a very high-quality staff locally and has committed to good disadvantaged business participation for the portions of the contract that are available for subcontracting. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions, and perhaps Dr. Bethel would like to note his views.
Yes. Dr. Beth, you have some comments on this?
Thank you. Yes, indeed. I am very, very pleased with the response of the staff in working on this and bringing back the related information about the contracting process, and of course, including the DBE participation. And as you can see from the resolution, 11 new DBEs, providing goods up to $114,000 on an annual basis, which certainly says, as General Manager has indicated, moves beyond this contract and move into other areas for other contracts as well. It's just a great opportunity to see that the supplier was willing to sit down, negotiate, and look, find those opportunities. And I, again, want to commend the staff for what they've done in working this out and bringing it to this point. And of course, when the time comes, I wholeheartedly move this resolution to be adopted.
Thank you. Questions from the board? Thank you, Dr. Bethel. Good outcome. So if there are no more questions, do I hear a motion to approve Resolution 13-04-26?
So moved.
I hear a motion.
Second.
I hear a second. Is there any further discussion? I guess, again, I just want to say thank you, Dr. Bethel, for taking the time to dig into this a little bit more, because I think the outcome is much better. With that, all in favor of the resolution to approve Resolution 13-04-26, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, the motion is approved unanimously. Okay, moving on to the second resolution, which is Resolution 13-04-27, which is authorizing a series of contracts for on-call appraisal, appraisal review, and appraisal specialty services. Mr. General Manager.
Mr. Board President, members of the board, every 5 years we go through a procurement of our on-call appraisal services. And these are very important contracts that need good response time and great expertise, and the expertise varies based on the type of property and particular types of personal property that might be part of any acquisition. Needless to say, we've used these contracts heavily in the last 5 years as we've gone through the Portland to Milwaukee project. Well, that project is on the home stretch related to all the acquisition work. We do expect that there will continue to be some need for these acquisition services over the next 5 years. And so what we've gone through is a new procurement of these on-call contracts for that purpose. And again, different specialties, different strengths, and our SOP, standard operating procedure associated with this, is to find the contractors that have the available expertise and then ask for quotes, if you will, associated with a particular assignment at hand, and then based on the price and the availability of the staff and the expertise, then we make a selection at that point in time and assign the work to one particular contract. So while these are contracts for a certain amount, again, the project that is responsible for the acquisition need is the one who pays the bill. So if it's a Portland Milwaukee project, they pay the bill for the appraisal services. If it's a TriMet capital project that has other funding sources, then that other project would pay the bill. And again, these contracts would be available over the next 5 years for our real estate department to access. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions or refer the hard ones to staff.
Do I see any questions from the board members?
Yeah.
Okay, please.
So if I'm reading this correctly, then 10 of the 13 proposers, we would enter into a not to exceed contract with each of them,
That's
up
right.
to $250,000.
Right.
So the grand total, if we utilized every single one of them to their fullest complement of what this contract is, it'd be $2.5 million
That's
over
correct.
that 5-year time frame.
But that would not be expected as an outcome.
But there could be.
There could be.
So as I look at the matrix here, and we look at the price point, I'm assuming the lower the number, the higher the price, or the higher the cost. Or is there a specific reason why we look at all 10 appointing a contractor? Is it just responsiveness? Who's got available staff at the time that we need them, or is it level of expertise, or what?
It is really both of those items, and I'd say the first thing is usually the level of expertise and the experience in a particular type of an appraisal. And we've had particular challenges, I would say, in the Portland Milwaukee related, which has made us pretty sensitive to that issue, where we've had very specialty manufacturing firms, for example, with very very one-of-a-kind personal property equipment within the, that required special sorts of relocation or consideration or reimbursement. And so getting somebody who's expert in that has been a challenge. And so we wanted to make sure that we had in our, if you will, stable of somebody who could answer or could be responsive to all those different needs.
So is it fair to say, I want to make sure I got this, this is a qualifications-based, in the most part, RFP and evaluation, right?
Right, most, and then there are price points as well.
Right. But again, we're looking to make sure we have the right qualifications, and then we got those, and we negotiate contracts and rates with each one of them,
Right.
based on what we think they should be paying. Right?
And again, that happens at the specific task order level.
Right.
And just to note, sometimes the rates aren't always tell you what is the lowest cost provider, because as we often find, if you find the right provider who can make short work of a topic, then sometimes they can, even though they might be charging more, they might actually be the lowest cost provider. So those are the kinds of trade-offs that are considered when the task orders are issued individually.
Okay.
You're feeling comfortable? You mean?
Well, no, it's, you know, I'm not quite sure if I can get comfortable. I'm just trying to reconcile, you know, having basically 10 contractors that then we give each $250,000 worth of room to work within. And it just seems, and I don't know enough about the appraisal services in the city of Portland to really weigh in on the perspective of, you know, what their expertise is at each firm. I just don't know enough about each of the organizations to be able to even question whether or not they would have that capability. It's just, you know, as I've looked at procurement over the years, I can't remember a situation where, you know, an organization that I've been engaged with has gone across 10 different entities to do the individual kind of not to exceed contracts of this size. So that's the only piece that I'm just kind of having a little consternation over, and I'm just trying to reconcile kind of what that means, or if there's anything that I'm thinking through that would essentially get me to the yes part of that.
Let's see if we can help you. Director Prosser, do you have some comments first?
Yeah, if I may, and to that point, exactly. In my experience, you know, in being in the finance field and becoming a city manager, during the course of my career, the organizations I with have gone more and more to this on-call type arrangement. The reason being, you know, kind of the traditional, the old-fashioned way of doing it is to go out on each individual project to acquire. And you're adding time to go through the solicitation process, and therefore you're adding costs to the project. I know particularly in Tigard, where I was city manager, for engineering services, architectural services, were the two that we use this primarily. And we found that by pre-qualifying people is in essence what we're doing here. Then as we came up with projects and we needed a particular expertise, we had a stable of folks that we could go to automatically. They were pre-qualified, they'd been selected through an open process, and we could get them in quickly to do the work, and we get the project to move on. It's, you know, under that type of arrangement, it's never a case where you would ever assign each individual on-call company the maximum amount of the contract. It's the financial control is really at that point set at the project level, and we have projects for each of our capital. We have budgets for each of our capital projects, and it is what is needed there. We're just not handing out work. We're actually handing out specific assignments, if you will. So hopefully that would speak to your concern about, well, gee, we're really talking about 2.5 million in total here. Yeah, that's the authorization, but that's not the expectation. That's not in reality what will actually be spent.
So I fully understand the on-call concept, and I agree with the idea of pre-qualifying vendors. You know, as I hear the terms contract, and I hear the term, and I look at just the breadth of the number of organizations and companies that we're talking about here, that's the only thing that gives me, that kind of challenges my level of comfort is why do we need so many, where we're spreading, this $250,000 contract across 10 institutions, organizations.
And I guess the only thing I can offer is, this is a commonly accepted practice, and it works quite well. It worked well for me at the Department of Transportation, Washington County, other places. And it does allow us the flexibility to move forward with the consultants. Already been pre-qualified, we have rates establishing to move forward. And I suspect that if you interview these folks, all of them like to have, one or two of them like to have all of our business, but I think the intent is, frankly, to share some of the work with all of those in the field, rather than focusing on one firm all along. So I think there's some real benefit to having this, but I understand your concern of why do we need 10, why not 5, or why not 4? But I think the idea of having an on-call, cadre stable, as you refer to it, of consultants that can do this for us is a good business practice for the agency to have.
And again, maybe it's the concept of not understanding quite the level of expertise and availability within these firms. If we think about a law firm or any other firm that delivers personal services or services, there's a familiarity with your client that gives you a kind of economy of scale that allows you to get in and get something done maybe much faster than if you had 9 other ones that you choose from. In the appraisal business here in the Portland metropolitan area, maybe everybody's pretty well versed in just the mechanics of it, that it doesn't really have much bearing on whether or not what our costs are as we go to approach something like this. Dan looks like he's ready to kind of help me along these lines.
Well, I just came up to just add one other sort of consideration into why we have so many, and it's really from the perspective of those who are being awarded contracts here. Many of these are highly specialized, and they are working for a whole number of other public owners. So including not only our work, but there's ODOT work and WashDOT work, and there's City of Portland, all the cities, all the counties, BPA. There's a lot of need for these services, and so these people aren't always available on our timelines. So some of them just opt out of even being available for some of our work when we are trying to find 3 valid bids. So we think it's in the public interest and to protect our schedules to have as many firms available to us as we can. As you've heard, we're not particularly worried about the total authority that's being granted here, because we cannot order more work than we have budget to use. So some of them aren't going to be spent out for sure.
Okay. So General Manager also has a comment.
Last comment. In addition to the basic appraisal, recall that under our federal process, we also have to do a review appraisal. So for those that are federally funded acquisitions, actually take 2 contracts, and they have to be separate and distinct. So that's another reason why the number and the availability becomes important for us. Now, all of that is often on a very compressed timeline.
I will point out just one, and I will stop and let you. But I actually have found a case where you've got, trying to acquire 3 parcels of property, and you've got 3 appraisers working for the property owners on the other side, which automatically takes them off the list. Then you have to have, your own appraisers that provide the appraisal for the public agency. And then, as you just pointed out, with the review appraisal, all of a sudden you could go through that list very quickly with 3 parcels of property, as an example.
Well, and those last 2 comments were the ones that I think are the most powerful when I'm looking at a contract like this. Because like you just said, Bruce, you could go through, if you've got to have 2, a review appraisal, the original appraisal, and then they've got to have their appraisals, you can go through 3 fairly quickly, and you can use up capacity very, very fast. Okay.
You're ready?
I'm ready.
All right.
I appreciate that.
No, that's good. Good questions. Thank you very much. So with that discussion, I'm seeing no more comments. Is there a motion to approve Resolution 13-04-27?
Move to approve.
Second?
I hear a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All right, all those in favor of the motion to approve Resolution 13-04-27 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? No? Motion is approved unanimously. Thank you. Very good discussion. Thank you for bringing those issues up. All right, the next resolution is Resolution 13-04-28, which is authorizing a contract with IFE North America for the purchase of LRV, light rail vehicle door operating assemblies, and Eckert door mechanisms. Mr. General Manager.
Mr. Board President, members of the board, this is really part of our overall state of good repair program for our light rail vehicles. And at various points in times, the doors either need to be completely rehabilitated or substituted. And what we found through a cost evaluation is that it's better for us to actually buy these new assemblies and then have them plugged in, if you will, to the vehicle itself as they reach their useful life. And so this is for actually 40 of these door assemblies. We went through a bid process. The lowest priced proposers, IFE North America, IFE NA, and the bid price was just under our independent cost estimate for this, 2% below that cost estimate. We think that the vendor's price is fair and reasonable, vendor that we know and have worked with in the past. And again, this process of buying these assemblies, we believe, is actually a 30% cost savings versus having to rehabilitate the separate components ourselves. And so we think it's a major cost savings. It's also a major time savings related to getting a vehicle, which is very important to us, out of the shop and into the service fleet as quickly as possible. I did want to note that as we have reported to you, they're related to the door opening issue. This is not specifically related to this. This is part of our ongoing rehabilitation program in any case. But as we go through the rehabilitation of the fleet, as we mentioned to you, we will be adding additional safety monitoring and/or devices at each door to make sure that we can address that problem. And again, the vehicle, we believe we found the issue associated with that one vehicle, which really had more to do with the bridge plate than with the door itself. But again, it begins to illustrate how complex these doors are. And a transit door is, I think, about the most complex part of the vehicle, which is it's got to have the edge sensitivity of an elevator door. You can't be able to move on it when it leans. It's got to be interlocked with the bridge plate. It's got to be interlocked with the propulsion systems and the braking systems. So it becomes a very complex piece of technology. And again, buying the components so that we can actually insert them, we believe will be a major cost savings and schedule advantage in the long haul. So with that, probably more than you wanted to know, but please recommend approval of this.
Just a quick comment, in regards to what we've heard back from the public, I think at a retreat last fall at the zoo, a lot of that information came back that one of their primary concerns was on time, on-time service, and I think as we've heard consistently, the doors on the MAX trains are the things that will take the MAX train out sooner rather than later. So in regards to being committed to making sure we move forward with the equipment that's going to increase the reliability and on-time performance is critical, I think, to answering what their concerns are. So I'm fully supportive of this.
See no more questions. Is there a motion then to approve Resolution 13-04-28?
So moved.
Hear a motion?
Second.
I hear a second. Any further discussion? Okay with that. All those in favor of Resolution 13-04-28, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none. Any abstentions? Seeing none, the motion is approved unanimously. Thank you very much. Okay, and the last resolution on our business today is Resolution 13-04-29, which is authorizing the transfer of appropriated funds within the FY 12-13 general fund budget. I would point out that we do have one person who would like to testify on this resolution. That's Mr. Lane Jensen, so maybe we can have the staff report and ask Mr. Jensen to come up and provide his testimony before we do our deliberations. Okay.
Well, I would just, Mr. Board President, members of the board, I would just note that this is the month that we typically do this resolution of truing up our budget to contingency transfers over a period of time. A large extent, sometimes there are timing issues, sometimes there are cost issues that need to be resolved. As we move into the final budget adoption, it allows us to reflect in that budget document the true cost of, to the extent that we know it in this fiscal year. So I was hoping Dave could go through the individual elements, since some of them are complex.
Please.
So the individual elements that are included in this budget transfer resolution are in the memo, and they're in size order. The first one being the intergovernmental transfers. This was strictly a timing issue. It was something that was budgeted in FY12. They thought it was going to happen in June. It didn't end up happening till later into FY13. So this is a no net financial impact to TriMet. It's where we get federal grants and then flow that money through to some of our regional partners. The major one being Metro for a transitory development project that they were working on.
So that's the first one.
That's the first.
22,000, is that the number? Or what am I looking at?
3.7 million.
On what? Look at the memo, excuse me. Thank you. Yes, gotcha. Back to it.
Next one is the union retiree medical premium reimbursement. Now this one is not reflected, and I mentioned it in our financial briefing, it is not reflected as an expense yet. There's TriMet has filed an appeal of this case, this decision to the Court of Appeals. We're waiting the outcome, but there's a likelihood that we will have to recognize the expense this year and perhaps even pay it this year. But this is a potential liability of $3.6 million. Additionally, the next item is their TriMet unfortunately receives this defendant in various lawsuits. As a policy, we don't like to specifically list those lawsuits and discuss how much we plan to reserve for them. So this is what we think would be the maximum amount we would potentially have to reserve for these items yet this fiscal year. These have not been booked yet either. So, but it's a possibility. This is just really ensuring our compliance with Oregon budget law. The DMAP program, that's the medical assistance program that's operated through the state. TriMet it's a no impact, financial impact to TriMet either, and the program is just needing more money than we had originally estimated, but we're fully reimbursed for all our costs on this. And so this is just, again, to ensure compliance with Oregon budget law, because we didn't have enough appropriated to cover this expense. That's $1.4 million. Barber Transit Center, back early in this fiscal year, you approved some change orders related to work there at Barber Transit Center that we're doing for ODOT. Again, this is an item that's fully reimbursed by ODOT, but was not, the budget and the appropriation for this was not large enough. We now need an additional $800,000. The last, two more items. The next one is the non-union wage increases. Obviously, you've heard a lot about this one, but the full amount of those wage adjustments for the fiscal year will be $910,000. However, there is adequate funds appropriated to cover this within the light rail program. So we're just asking that $674,000 be moved to contingency to cover the other departments where non-union wage increases are hitting. And the last item is the electronic fare the e-fare implementation project. Here, this project is just moving a little faster than we had anticipated when the budget was put together. It had been in our financial forecast, and it is in our financial forecast for the next roughly 5 years. And we've just, because the project's moving forward faster than we originally had planned, we need to move money forward and into FY13. And we're asking for an additional $500,000 for that project. Those are the elements that make up the budget transfer that we're requesting for this FY13. And then the details of how it impacts all the departments and the actual is in the resolution, but probably don't need to give you any breakdown on that.
Why don't you hold tight or stay close, and why don't we ask Lane Jensen to come up. Lane? Is he here? Oh, there he is. That side.
Good morning, everyone. I'm sure you all know who I am. So my biggest concern with this budget here, or the resolution, would be the non-union wage increase. As you all know, the total expense was $910,000. I do see the light rail program you are taking about $250,000 out of it, and then the total out of contingency is $674,000. My biggest concern would be, why can't we use that $674,000 to start restoring service? Because without having service, there's going to be no riders, and more riders are going to turn away from TriMet and go to their own personal vehicles or other modes of transportation instead of riding TriMet. So instead of giving raises, why can't we start restoring service, and then once we have a better transit system, then maybe start thinking about raises? Because right now, as all of you know, our service has been getting cut for the last 4 to 5 years. As a rider, our only voice is basically being here, talking for our 3 minutes. That's our only voice that we have. And as all of you know, we can't ask questions because this is a public forum, so we have no place to ask questions, so we're kind of getting screwed in the sense that we're being, how do I want to put this? We're being given the short end of the stick here, and we have no say in what happens. So why can't we just restore service and then worry about the non-union wage increases? Let's focus on that first, and not giving everybody raises. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Wayne. So with those comments, do we have some questions from the board before we take action? I guess I have one question. I didn't understand the full $8.2 million in the operations side. I think I saw a portion of that, but is there other issues that make up the total of the $8.2 million transfer into the operations side?
The main elements that are included in the operations division increase are the retiree medical, actually come from that. The lawsuits are actually charged to the operations
So that's the
division.
$3.6 million?
Medical is 3.6.
Medical is yeah.
So it would be both the 3.6 million and the 3 million.
And
Gotcha. Okay, so those are both in there. All right.
and the next one as
And then-
well.
Okay, that explains it. I'm sorry, I missed that. So those make up the bulk of the $8 million. Okay, thank you very much. Good, glad I answered that. Okay, any other questions? Okay. Is there a motion then to approve Resolution 13-04-29?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, is there any further discussion? Seeing none, sir. All of those in favor of the motion to approve Resolution 13-04-29 signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Nay. Any abstentions? No? Okay, so the motion is approved unanimously. Lane, I just want to thank you for your comments. Again, I think the board has looked at the non-union pay raises. We believe those are in order, and the raises have been granted. So it'll be a takeaway for the employees. But I also want you to know that during the budget process, we are looking at restoring some limited amount of the service in the system, and we're hoping with, if arbitration goes our way, we could probably even look to establish some more. So again, thank you for your comments. So that ends our business meeting. Is there any other business to come before the board today? Okay. I know, Dr. Bethel, you need to leave right now. So with that, I'm going to adjourn the April 24th, 2013 meeting of the TriMet Board of Directors. And we'll go right into
Could we take a short break?
you know, that's a reasonable. We had a request for a small break. I think that's a reasonable thing. Why don't we take 10 minutes and come back here? All right.